Edrin Hale stepped off the shuttle and into the cold, metal halls of Starshelter. The station hung in orbit around a dying star, a place built for beings the galaxy had forgotten. Its corridors were quiet, too quiet, except for the soft hum of life support and distant warning lights that flickered like nervous eyes. Every being here had a story of fear or failure. Some were dangerous, some were broken, and some had been abandoned by everyone. Edrin had come many times before, checking supplies or repairing minor systems, but today he was on a special assignment. A creature had been discovered in a remote sector of Starshelter, and it was said to be the most feared dragon ever recorded in galactic history. The Council's records were filled with warnings: dangerous, cursed, violent, uncontrollable. Guards avoided the sector. No drones had dared enter. The creature had been left alone, locked in a reinforced cell that looked like a cage built for a nightmare. The moment Edrin approached, the sensors blared faintly. Red lights flashed, marking the danger zones. "Stay back," a recorded warning said. The hall was lined with reinforced glass, and the cell was visible through the window. Inside, the dragon was curled into a ball. Its scales were dark, almost black, with faint streaks of glowing blue running along its spine. Its eyes were open, glowing like molten gold, but there was no roar, no fire, no threatening posture. Just fear. Edrin froze for a moment. Every story said dragons like this were monsters, hungry for destruction. Every story said they attacked without reason. But what he saw made his chest tighten. The dragon wasn't angry. It wasn't lashing out. It was small, wounded, trembling slightly as if it had been abandoned for a long time. The creature watched Edrin carefully, tilting its head, curious yet cautious. Edrin's hand went to the control panel on the wall. He could call for backup, alert security, even order the dragon to be sedated. But something in him stopped. He remembered his own childhood, growing up on a distant colony where people thought he was too weak to survive. He knew what it was like to be feared for who you were. He knew what it was like when the galaxy wrote your story before you even lived it. He stepped closer to the glass. The dragon moved slightly back but didn't try to hide. Its wings were folded tightly, its tail wrapped around its body like a shield. Its gaze followed Edrin, golden eyes full of intelligence, full of warning. The stories hadn't been wrong. Dragons could be dangerous. But they weren't monsters. Not all of them. Edrin spoke quietly, almost to himself. "You're not alone," he said. The words sounded small in the huge hall, but he meant them. The dragon tilted its head again, listening, but said nothing. He could feel the tension in the air. The creature could destroy him in seconds if it chose. But it didn't. It waited, almost as if it was trying to understand why a human had come. The station council records had a name for it: the most hated dragon of Starshelter. The title sounded absurd here in this quiet, lonely cell. This dragon was not hated. It was ignored. Forgotten. Misunderstood. Edrin's heart tightened. If he could only reach it, if he could only show it someone who would care, maybe the stories could change. He turned to the panel and accessed the adoption request form. The system beeped in warning. The council would not approve it. No human had ever adopted a dragon like this. The risks were too high. The galaxy would mock him. It would call him foolish. But Edrin hesitated only for a moment. His hand hovered over the approval button. He thought of the dragon, trembling, abandoned, alone. He thought of every being the galaxy had left behind, every story of fear that hid a truth no one had tried to see. Edrin pressed the button. A soft click sounded, almost too small to hear, but it was the start of a choice that no one in Starshelter could have expected. The cage's heavy doors slid open with a hiss. Guards in the distance tensed, expecting a scream, a fire, a deadly strike. But nothing came. The dragon stepped forward cautiously, one claw at a time, measuring the floor. Its glowing eyes stayed fixed on Edrin. The human extended his hand slowly, palm open, fingers trembling slightly. "It's okay," he whispered. "I'm not going to hurt you." For a long moment nothing happened. Then, slowly, the dragon lowered its head and nudged Edrin's hand with its snout. The glow in its eyes softened. There was trust in that small gesture, fragile and careful, but it was trust. Edrin's heart raced. He had never felt anything like it. He had not just seen a dragon. He had seen a being, alive, aware, and waiting for someone to believe in it. The first few steps were the hardest. Every nerve in Edrin's body screamed danger. Every story he had heard screamed that he was making a mistake. But when the dragon moved past him, following without aggression, the station seemed to hold its breath. A new story had begun. One that no one had expected. From the observation deck, other beings watched in silence. A few muttered warnings. Most stayed back, afraid of what might happen next. But the whispers didn't matter. Edrin and the dragon, later named Crixel, had already begun their journey. A journey not just through Starshelter but through the galaxy itself, where fear and hatred had ruled for centuries. And in that moment, as Edrin and Crixel left the cell together, the first part of the galaxy's story about the dragon changed forever. No one could predict what would come next. But one thing was certain: the creature no one would touch had found someone who would, and that choice would ripple across the stars in ways no one had imagined. News of Edrin Hale's choice spread through Starshelter faster than fire through dry metal. Every corridor buzzed with whispers. Every observation window had eyes pressed against the glass. A human had done what no one had ever dared. He had adopted Crixel, the most hated dragon in the station. The council's response was immediate. Holographic messages flooded Edrin's terminal, each one sharper than the last. Unauthorized action, one warned. This creature is dangerous, another said. Humans cannot control it. Return it immediately. But Edrin ignored the messages. He had made his choice. He knew the council would argue, threaten, maybe even try to take Crixel by force. Still, he felt a calm certainty. Fear had never stopped him before, and it would not stop him now. Edrin walked with Crixel through the central halls, keeping his hand near the dragon's head in case of sudden panic. Crixel was careful, wary of the humans who stared, who muttered, who pointed. Every step reminded him of the time he had spent alone, locked in that reinforced cell. Every step reminded Edrin of the danger, and yet every step also reminded him of hope. Crixel's golden eyes flickered toward him, trusting him just enough to move forward. The guards were the first test. A team of them approached, their weapons ready, expecting the dragon to lash out. They froze when Crixel merely lowered its head and let Edrin guide it past them. There was no fire, no roar, no attack. Just cautious steps and careful breaths. The guards whispered among themselves. Some were shocked. Some laughed nervously. None could believe what they were seeing. In the station's council chamber, the holograms of officials glared at Edrin from every corner. "You've broken every rule," one shouted. "Do you understand the risks?" Another added, "This dragon is labeled a cosmic hazard. You could endanger everyone in Starshelter." Edrin remained calm. He could feel Crixel shifting beside him, tense but steady. "I understand the risks," he said quietly. "But this dragon is not a weapon. It is not a threat. It has only been left alone for too long." The council members exchanged doubtful looks. They had no idea what a human could see that they could not. They had never seen fear turn into trust. The choice shocked the entire station. News networks picked up the story immediately. "Human adopts galaxy's most feared dragon," one headline screamed. "Starshelter stunned," another read. Across the galaxy, beings paused, curious. The most hated dragon, known for destruction and chaos, had a human who claimed it as his own. And the dragon had not attacked. It had not destroyed. It had only moved forward, slowly, cautiously, into the unknown. Crixel's behavior surprised everyone, even the most experienced xenobiologists. It had been violent in simulations, in history, in every recorded encounter. But with Edrin, the dragon was patient, listening, observing, and responding not with aggression but with curiosity. Every cautious step it took reassured Edrin that the bond forming between them was real. Every blink of golden eyes told him Crixel was learning something no one had expected. Humans could be gentle, humans could care, humans could be brave. Some tried to warn him. Other humans whispered behind closed doors. "You are risking your life," one said. "No dragon can be tamed. Especially not that one." But Edrin only shook his head. "I am not trying to tame it," he said. "I am trying to be its friend. There is a difference." The council sent envoys to inspect the arrangement. They watched from observation decks as Edrin fed Crixel, as he gently brushed its scales, as he guided it through open halls. They expected chaos. They expected screams. They expected destruction. Instead, they saw trust forming in real time, a connection neither force nor fear could explain. Some envoys were speechless. Others grew frustrated. They had no frame of reference for what they were seeing. A dragon feared across the galaxy had chosen a human, and the human had chosen it back. Still, tension simmered under the surface. No one fully trusted Crixel, and no one fully trusted a human to control the impossible. Every hallway glance, every whisper, every cautious movement reminded Edrin that this was only the beginning. The galaxy had been taught to fear dragons. Now it would have to learn something different. Now it would have to learn that a human could see hope where others saw only danger. Crixel seemed to understand the stakes. It stayed close to Edrin, its head brushing his shoulder at times, its wings folded but ready. It had been alone for so long, abandoned and feared. Now, for the first time, it had someone who would not leave. Someone who would not abandon it no matter how angry or scared the galaxy became. Crixel's trust was fragile, but it was real. And that was more than anyone had ever hoped for. By the end of the day, Edrin and Crixel were not just walking through Starshelter, they were making a statement. Fear could be met with courage. Hatred could be met with patience. Stories written in panic and misunderstanding could be rewritten with action and care. The Council may have doubted him. The galaxy may have laughed. But Edrin and Crixel had already begun changing everything with one simple choice: to believe in each other. As night fell over Starshelter, the lights dimmed, and the station grew quiet once more, Edrin sat near Crixel's new resting area. The dragon lowered its head, resting it on the human's lap for the first time. Golden eyes blinked slowly, and Edrin felt a warmth in his chest he had never known. It was trust, fragile and new, but it was stronger than any fear the galaxy had built. The whispers in Starshelter would not stop. The Council would continue to argue. Observers would continue to doubt. But one thing was certain: the choice of a single human to adopt the most hated dragon had begun to shock the galaxy, and nothing would ever be the same. And somewhere deep in Crixel's eyes, there was a question, bright and alive. If this human could care, could the galaxy learn to care too? The days after Edrin Hale adopted Crixel were quiet but full of tension. Starshelter had stopped whispering openly, but the station still watched. Cameras followed their steps. Observers jotted notes. Everyone expected the dragon to attack at any moment. They expected chaos. But Crixel did nothing of the sort. Instead, it began to learn. At first, even simple things were a challenge. Edrin taught Crixel how to move safely in the narrow halls without knocking over equipment. Crixel's claws scraped metal and sparked small alarms, but it tried again. Edrin showed it the gravity fields, the airlocks, the life support vents. The dragon's golden eyes followed every movement, absorbing details with surprising speed. Crixel had been alone for so long that trust was foreign. In its cell, fear had been the only companion. Screams and threats had shaped every thought. Now Edrin was patient. He never shouted. He never forced Crixel. He used calm voices, soft gestures and gentle touches. He gave Crixel space when it hesitated and offered encouragement when it moved forward. Crixel began to understand that humans could be steady, even in a dangerous place like Starshelter. Edrin fed Crixel by hand, small rations at first. The dragon sniffed suspiciously, retreating slightly whenever a hand moved too fast. Edrin laughed quietly and spoke softly. "Take your time," he said. "I'm not going anywhere." Slowly, Crixel leaned closer. It nibbled at the food, then relaxed, letting Edrin's hand brush against its scales. The Council records had said the dragon was untrainable, violent, uncontrollable, but here, in these quiet moments, it seemed capable of something new: trust. Night was the hardest. Crixel had nightmares at first, thrashing in its new enclosure, wings flaring, scales scraping metal. Edrin stayed nearby, speaking softly, letting the dragon feel the presence of someone who would not abandon it. Gradually, the nightmares lessened. The dragon's breathing slowed. It learned that humans could stay through fear, through anger, through chaos, and still remain. Edrin never left its side, even when Starshelter's automated systems warned him to retreat. Crixel began exploring beyond its enclosure. Edrin guided it through empty corridors and maintenance shafts. The dragon's golden eyes widened at the lights, the machinery, the humans who hurried by. It had never seen so many beings moving without intent to harm. Some of the younger humans tried to sneak close, curious, even nervous. Crixel growled softly at first, then relaxed when Edrin stepped between them. It was learning that humans could protect as well as care. The station slowly began to notice changes. Other creatures that had been abandoned or feared began to watch Crixel and Edrin with hope instead of fear. Small aliens, timid and broken, edged closer when the dragon was calm. Guards noticed Crixel's gentle behavior and whispered about it among themselves. Stories about the most hated dragon were beginning to crumble. If a human could connect with it, maybe the galaxy's rules about fear and hatred were wrong. Crixel also learned about human emotions. Edrin laughed when something amused him, and Crixel tilted its head, curious. Edrin frowned when something upset him, and Crixel flinched, careful not to cause more trouble. The dragon began to notice subtle signals: tone of voice, movement of hands, even the speed of breath. For the first time, it realized that humans could feel as deeply as any being in the galaxy, and that some humans could care enough to risk everything for someone else. Food became easier. Walking through halls became easier. Crixel even began to follow simple commands. Stop, wait, move forward. Each success built trust, not obedience. Edrin never forced it to do anything. He only showed patience, kindness, and calm. Crixel learned that humans could teach through care, not fear. Every time it obeyed, it was not out of submission. It was a choice made quietly, carefully, with trust. There were still moments of doubt. Crixel would sometimes snap at shadows, hiss at loud alarms, or tense when a human approached too quickly. Edrin never reacted with anger. He knelt, spoke softly, and gave the dragon space. "It's okay," he said. "You're safe here." Slowly, Crixel's tense muscles relaxed. Slowly, the glow in its golden eyes softened. Slowly, the most hated dragon of Starshelter began to understand what humans could be. For the first time, Crixel realized that not every story about fear was true. Not every human was cruel. Not every choice in the galaxy was about survival or conquest. Some humans like Edrin could choose care. They could choose loyalty. They could choose to see what others had ignored. And in return, Crixel could choose to trust, to follow, to learn. By the end of the week, Crixel was walking beside Edrin through the central halls of Starshelter without hesitation. Guards stopped pointing weapons. Observers leaned from behind glass with cautious curiosity. Even the council, watching from their chambers, could not deny the change. A dragon once feared for destruction was learning patience, gentleness, and loyalty from a human. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. At night, Edrin would sit with Crixel curled beside him, golden eyes blinking slowly in quiet trust. "You're learning," he said softly. "And I'm learning from you too." The dragon tilted its head as if understanding more than the words. In that silence, Crixel understood the most important lesson of all. Humans were not just unpredictable creatures of danger. They could be protectors, friends, and even heroes. And as Crixel's trust grew, so did Edrin's quiet belief that one human, choosing care over fear, could begin to change the galaxy itself. Starshelter had grown quieter since Edrin Hale adopted Crixel. But the galaxy outside had not forgotten. Reports of the most hated dragon being guided by a human spread like wildfire. Some called it impossible. Others called it dangerous. Powerful factions across the stars demanded the dragon be returned, claiming it could not be left in the hands of a single human. One morning, alarms echoed through the station. Red lights flashed across corridors. The council's communications system blared warnings. Edrin froze as a fleet of sleek warships appeared outside the station's orbital windows. They carried the emblems of the galaxy's most feared military coalitions. They had come for Crixel. Edrin looked down at the dragon, who was crouched beside him, tail wrapped protectively around its claws. Crixel's golden eyes flicked toward the fleet, then back to Edrin. The dragon sensed danger immediately, but it did not panic. It had learned something important. With Edrin by its side, it was not alone. The council sent a message directly to Edrin. "Surrender the creature immediately," the voice commanded. "This dragon is a threat to all life in the galaxy. You are unqualified to hold it. Compliance is required." Edrin's jaw tightened. He knew they would not understand what he and Crixel had built. They could not see the bond. They could not feel the trust. "I will not surrender it," he said calmly. "Crixel is not a weapon. It will not harm anyone as long as I am here." The warships moved closer. Drones and automated fighters prepared to breach the station. Edrin led Crixel to the observation deck. The dragon's wings flexed, tense but ready. It had never faced such overwhelming numbers, but it also understood something no one outside Starshelter had realized. This human had chosen it. And Crixel had chosen back. The first attack came from the automated drones. They fired energy nets designed to capture dangerous creatures. Crixel leapt with speed that stunned the observers, twisting in midair to avoid capture. Flames danced along its scales, a warning signal, not a threat. Edrin held his hand steady, signaling the dragon to calm. Crixel obeyed, breathing gently, not harming the drones. The fleet paused, confused. Edrin shouted to the station's security teams. "Do not attack it. This is not aggression. It is protecting itself, and us." The guards hesitated, unsure how to act. Crixel stayed close to Edrin, muscles tensed, wings half spread like a shield. The dragon had learned restraint. It had learned trust. And it had learned that strength without care could destroy everything it loved. The fleet's commander finally spoke. "Human, you will release the dragon or Starshelter will be destroyed." Edrin did not flinch. "I will not release Crixel," he said. "You do not understand it. You cannot control it. You can only destroy it if you try." A tense silence followed. Observers held their breath. The galaxy had expected violence, chaos, and death. But Crixel did not attack. It had a choice, and it chose protection, not destruction. Then something unexpected happened. One of the coalition ships fired a warning shot toward the station. Energy beams cut across the observation deck, narrowly missing Edrin and Crixel. The dragon roared, not in anger but in alarm. Flames leapt from its mouth, bright and powerful, forming a shield between the station and the attack. It did not burn the walls or the humans inside. It only blocked the shots. The fleet froze. They had never seen such control. A dragon, feared across the galaxy, was protecting the very beings who had come to capture it. It was no longer just a creature of terror. It was intelligent. It was loyal. It was capable of choice. Edrin reached out to Crixel. Steady. Focus. Protect but do not harm. The dragon's eyes met his. Golden fire met calm determination. Slowly, Crixel lowered its shield of flame, signaling the fleet that no harm would come if they backed away. The message was clear. The dragon belonged here, and it would act only with reason and care. The fleet hesitated, then withdrew slightly. Communications were filled with confusion. "This is impossible," one officer muttered. "The most hated dragon. It obeys a human?" Another added, "It chooses restraint. It chooses trust. It cannot be captured." Edrin and Crixel had done the unthinkable. They had stood against the galaxy's strongest forces and survived. Not through violence alone, but through trust, patience, and the bond they had formed. Crixel's restraint forced the galaxy to pause, to reconsider, to question everything they believed about dragons and humans alike. When the alarms finally ceased, the station was quiet again. Crixel settled beside Edrin, tail curling around his legs. The dragon's body still trembled slightly from adrenaline, but its eyes glowed softly, a silent message of gratitude and understanding. Edrin patted its scales gently. "We did it," he said. "Together." The observers, guards, and even council members slowly realized what had happened. A human and a dragon had faced the entire galaxy and proven that trust and care could be stronger than fear and power. Messages spread quickly, changing the way beings across the stars viewed humans and dragons alike. Crixel, once hated, was now more than a creature of fear. It was a symbol of choice. A symbol of restraint. A symbol that even the most dangerous beings could act with care when given understanding. And Edrin, the human who had dared to believe, had become proof that one person could change the story of the galaxy. As night fell over Starshelter, the warships moved far away, unsure of what to do next. Crixel rested its head on Edrin's shoulder, trusting him completely. Together, they had faced the might of the galaxy, and the most hated dragon had made a choice that no one had expected. One choice could not only save their lives but also begin to change the way the stars themselves would see humans and dragons forever. The galaxy never forgot Edrin Hale and Crixel. Starshelter had become more than a station for the forgotten. It had become a place of hope, where creatures once feared, hated, or abandoned could find safety. And it all started with one human who had dared to care for the most hated dragon. Crixel had grown stronger, wiser, and calmer. Its scales shone in golden light, its wings spread wide but no longer with fear or anger. The dragon had learned patience, trust, and care from Edrin. Every being in Starshelter who saw them together began to believe that the galaxy had misjudged humans. They had always thought humans were reckless, selfish, and weak. Now they saw something different: courage, empathy, and the willingness to risk everything for another being. Edrin spent his days helping other creatures, guiding them, and teaching them that fear could be met with care. Crixel stayed close, protective but gentle, a living proof of what a human and dragon could achieve together. They moved through halls once filled with whispers of fear, and now whispers of hope followed them. Stories of the most hated dragon changed across the galaxy. Ships carried the news to distant colonies. Hollow broadcasts told of a human who had not only survived the galaxy's strongest factions but had taught a dragon to trust. The name Edrin Hale became synonymous with courage. The name Crixel became a symbol of choice, restraint, and the power of empathy. Other humans who had been underestimated suddenly found doors opening for them. Beings who had feared humans began to ask questions. Could it be that humans were not only clever and strong but also capable of care the galaxy had never seen before? Stories of cruelty were still told, of course, but they were now balanced with stories of bravery and compassion. Crixel's example inspired other dragons and dangerous creatures. Many began to approach humans, curious, not hostile. They tested boundaries, yes, but they also learned to wait, to observe, and to choose. Slowly, the galaxy realized that fear had been a lens through which it had always judged others. Empathy and understanding could achieve what weapons never could. Edrin watched Crixel one evening as the dragon rested on the observation deck, staring at distant stars. "We've changed a lot," he said softly. Crixel blinked slowly, and though it could not speak in human words, Edrin felt the answer in its golden gaze. They had not just survived. They had rewritten expectations. Starshelter itself changed. No longer a place for the forgotten, it became a sanctuary. Species once hated or feared came here to find care, guidance, and hope. The Council, once rigid and fearful, began to see value in humans' approach. They learned that strength was not only in control or power, it could also be in patience, empathy, and trust. The galaxy began to take note. Distant worlds, watching the events unfold through reports and broadcasts, asked questions they had never asked before. Could humans be trusted not because of weapons or fleets but because of their choices? Could a single person's courage change the fate of the stars? Stories of Edrin and Crixel traveled faster than any fleet could. The most hated dragon had become a teacher without words, showing the galaxy what humans were capable of. Even those who had opposed Edrin eventually learned to respect him. Crixel's calm and strength in the face of danger proved that humans could inspire loyalty, even in the most feared creatures. No longer was the dragon hated. It became a symbol of hope, showing that even those abandoned or feared could thrive when given care and understanding. Edrin never sought fame. He only sought to help. Yet everywhere he went, the galaxy remembered him. He had started with one choice: to adopt a creature no one would touch. That one choice had rippled outward, touching countless lives, shaping new opinions, and teaching a simple lesson the galaxy had forgotten. Empathy can be stronger than fear, care can be stronger than hatred, and one human can change everything. Years later, Crixel soared through the skies above Starshelter, carrying Edrin on its back for patrols and long flights. They looked at the stars together, silent but connected. Every being who saw them knew the truth: the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. Fear had been replaced with respect. Hatred had been replaced with curiosity. And stories once written in panic were now rewritten in hope. In the end, the stars remembered not just a dragon or a human, but a truth larger than any war or weapon: choices matter. Compassion matters. Courage matters. One human's decision to adopt the most hated dragon had done more than save a life. It had changed the galaxy itself. Crixel's golden eyes gleamed in the starlight as Edrin reached out and touched its scales. No words were needed. The bond they had built spoke louder than any message, any report, or any council order. Together, they had shown that even the most feared beings could choose care, and even the smallest choices could echo across the stars. And as the light of distant worlds reflected in Crixel's scales, the galaxy finally understood what humans had always been capable of: not just of survival but of hope, courage, and change.